Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm going to be checking out the FuriBee X215 Pro S. The S is very important because it's a different model to the X215 Pro. It's come in the same box and they've just put a S on here with marker pen. At first I thought, oh no, they've sent me another one of these, but no, it was the different version, and it's not really an upgrade to the original X215 Pro. It's more of a different version for, I guess you could say, a different demographic, because it has got the Ishin StackX in there, which basically gives it a HD camera with the entire package. So before I get onto that, let's take a look at some of the specs, because it actually looks like a really smart copter, this one. So we've got the original X215 Pro frame. It's a really nice frame. It's got this veneer on here with a very nice pattern on it. The motors are different. They are FuriBee branded, and they are a 2306 2400 kV motor, and supposedly this copter can take a 4 to 6S battery, but with it being 2400 kV, I'm probably going to use a 4S battery in this review. You're not given a battery just like all the other FuriBee models, so I'm going to be using a Tattoo R-Line 1300 mAh 4S. And you'll notice these props here. So yeah, they give you these FuriBee Racer Star style props, and I've had enough of them, so I'm not going to even entertain the idea of using them on this copter, because I just haven't been getting great results. So you're given two pairs of those, but these are the Dell Cyclone 5046 props, and I've gone with the green to match the green motors. And yeah, you're given these lock-in nuts as well. I think they're just painted green. The motors actually have a hollow shaft. Seem like a really decent quality motor, I have to say. And we also have some heat shrink around the wires as well, which is really nice. And yeah, it's quite a heavy model. It weighs, without a battery, it's 366 grams, which you would say was a heavy model without a battery. But you have to remember, that is with the HD camera. So if you add the battery, it comes to 534 grams, which then makes it a very lightweight copter if it was carrying a GoPro at the same time. So I think you need to bear that in mind. But yeah, the dry weight is quite heavy. Not too bad if you think about it carrying a HD camera. So then we've got the StackX here, and it seems to be a updated version of it. I was going to do a review of the StackX, but it seems to have changed in this copter. So specifically I'm talking about the flight controller. Can you see this little ribbon here? So the thing that is good about the StackX is you get your 35 amp BL Halley S ESCs, and those can run D-Shot, and then you've got your F4 flight controller with a built-in VTX and on-screen display. Now on the original it said that the VTX was a switcher between 50 milliwatt and 200 milliwatt, and the listing for this says that it is 25 milliwatt to 200 milliwatt. I'm going to go with the stats of the StackX. So 50 milliwatt, probably a bit high for going to races, but you're probably not going to turn up to races with this anyways. And yeah, so this one, this time, has got a floating IMU like the Holy Bro Kakute. But it is still the StackX, because they call it, I think it's like the Fish Drone F4. It's still that as the target. I'm not too keen about the wire being on the outside here, but I was looking at the options, so I thought, well, yeah, you could twist it around and change the board orientation, but that would mean that your SD card here, so yeah, it's the SD version, and the USB would face backwards, and that would probably get in the way of the buzzer. So yeah, it's got a buzzer which is all connected up, so you can use it as lost model alarm, you can use it as low voltage alarm, and LEDs, which is also connected up to the DIN as well. And then at the top we have got the 1080p 60 DVR board, and that has got its SD card facing at the back, well, SD card slot, should I say, because you're not given an SD card, micro SD card. It takes up to a 32 gigabyte, and you need a class 10, so that's what I'm using there. and then we've got the 2 buttons on the side there. One of them just resets the camera, so there's no menu settings with this, and then the other one starts and stops the recording. So unlike the Split, there's no menus whatsoever, and it doesn't automatically start the recording when you power it up, so you have to press the button. You can switch between NTSC and PAL, and I believe that you press one of these buttons whilst powering it up. It's set as NTSC out of the box, and that should be fine for what I'm going to be using. Now, one of the problems that I saw with this system is the camera is really long, and it's a bit of a struggle to find a frame that it would fit in. You probably have to use like a Martian frame or an alien frame to get the length of the camera in, and you can see the camera is exposed here, and I know that bothers a lot of people. Never really bothers me because I fly out in the open. I've never smashed the camera, and even when I've crashed into things, it's usually been the arms that hit first. You have to be really unlucky for it to miss both the arms, both the props, and hit the camera. But I know it does happen, and people don't like it. Doesn't bother me particularly. So yeah, we've got the camera up there, and of course you can change the angle as well. It's come flash with Betaflight version 3.2, and it did have quite a nice setup actually. It's even got D-Shock commands installed on it, so it's got turtle mode, but I've uninstalled that because I don't like turtle mode. I've had far too many copters burn the ESC with the motors running upside down, so I don't like to have that on. But yeah, in general, I have to say it seems like a pretty nice copter, but again, I'll reserve my opinion for the flight. You're given a pagoda antenna. It's RPSMA. I'll be switching that out to a on-way cloverleaf antenna. It's just my preference. Don't like pagoda antennas. And I was really pleased to see that it has come with a XM Plus receiver, and it also had the cable ties and the heat shrink on there, so really nice, I have to say. It's given me a good impression so far. Like I say, the only thing I'm concerned about is this ribbon here, and if it flies nice, I might just turn this around so the ribbon is facing at the front, and then just put up with the fact that it's going to be difficult to get to the USB connector, because yeah, all this I think you can just turn, and I don't have to turn these other boards, so that should be fine. So there are a couple of things I'm not sure about with this camera. It's not exactly like the Split. Like I say, there's no menu on there, so we're stuck in a 4:3 format, whereas with the Split you can turn off the full screen in the menu, and then you can get a nice 16:9 full picture of the sensor, but it still records in 1080p 60. Another thing that I'm not too keen on about this stack in general is that there's no easy way to change the channel or the power output. You have to put some commands into the CLI to switch it out, and I've had a look, and it's set on band 4 and channel 1, which I think is the Fatshark band, and channel 1, so I think it's 5740. If you want to go ahead and change that, you have to go and put a load of commands in the CLI, which I'm not too keen on, because if you were out with friends, that would be very difficult to change. You also have to change the power output using CLI commands. It's set at 0, which I believe is the highest power output for this copter, but I generally fly on my own, so it's not going to be too much of an issue for me, but I know it would be an issue for other people. As for other stuff that you get, well, not a lot. You get given this battery strap, which you do have to install. There's no silicon mat there. That would have been nice, but you are given one of these carbon sandwich plates for your battery, and even though you don't need it, they give you one of these GoPro mounts as well, but I can't see why you'd need that. Bit of a waste, that. But yeah, that's everything that you get. As for the Betaflight setup, it's actually got their own rates in there, which suggests that at some point they did fly this copter. I imagine they didn't fly this particular one, but maybe the original when they were building it. It does seem to have some PIDs in there as well, but I'll probably end up changing those. And yeah, it had a load of modes in there. It had a load of AUXs turned on for like turning off the LEDs, and like I say, I think it went up to AUX 5, and you also had turtle mode on there as well, but I've disabled all that, so I've just got my arming on a 2-position switch. So arming wasn't set up on a switch, it was set up on the rudder. I like it on a switch, so I've got that on the aux 2, and then the aux 1 was set up perfect. It was set up for angle, horizon and acro. It didn't have air mode installed, and in air mode also wasn't permanently on, and it also had dynamic filters turned on and anti-gravity turned on. It does not have the auxiliaries hooked up to this camera, so you can actually hook up the auxiliaries to the LED strip and then you can control the recording off an auxiliary, but it's set up for LED strip, this one. I don't like that because if you get like a mini failsafe, then it's going to stop your recording, so I prefer just to have it on the button. Same with the Runcam split as well. So yeah, on paper and in the flesh it seems a pretty nice copter, but let's see if it flies as good as it looks in the flesh. Okay, let's have a go. Line of sight. Starting off in angle mode because this is the maiden. Seems to be behaving so far. Let's check out the punch. Wow. Those props really do make the difference. Loads of power. Okay, try acro. Not hearing any vibrations or jitters, which is good news. And this is just the tune that it came with. Seems alright. But of course that could change on the FPV flight. Oh, did you hear that? Little jitter there. Definitely a jitter. Which is surprising really, with that IMU being isolated, but yeah, definitely a jitter there. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it could do with the motors being soft mounted. It's not doing it all the time, and it was very small, but I imagine something like that would show itself more in the FPV flight. Yeah, I can just hear a little tiny hesitation, and it's only on certain maneuvers. It was mainly those power loop things that I was doing. Yeah, just there. Very unusual. I don't think it's going to be show-stopping. There, you can hear it, hesitation on the motor. Might manifest itself in other ways whilst doing FPV. Hopefully not too catastrophic results. But the punch seems good, it's not falling out of the sky. Yeah, just a tiny, I don't know if that's going to show itself, we'll have to see. Maybe it's just the maneuver I'm putting in it, because it's only those loops that it seems to be doing it in. Ah, these props are so much better. I should stick these on every model really. Yeah, just there, very odd. Regardless what the throttle is, just a certain angle, just a tiny jitter. But anyways, seems alright in general. Let's go back to angle mode and see if we've got any drift. No, there's no drift. So let's come in for a landing and I'll do some FPV with it. So when it came to the FPV flight, sadly there were some show-stopping issues. First of all, the jitters that I was getting in the line of sight flight were there on the FPV flight, specifically in the corners, you can see there. And I don't think it's down to vibrations, I think it's down to noise in the system coming from the ESC, so maybe a cap will help with that, but you can see it's actually manifesting itself in the HD footage as well, which is a shame because I thought the HD footage was great despite it being a dull day, and the latency was better than the split, but it just got worse to the point where it completely washed out and I had to enter my blind flying mode, which I'd become accustomed to with FuriBee. Luckily it wasn't bad enough to crash and I was able to land it, so I'm going to have to get onto GearBest. I'm going to try a couple of things myself, but yeah, a bit of a shame there. You can see actually the XM Plus came with the RSSI enabled, which was a nice touch I thought, but yeah, I got some problems here, so I need to go back and see if I can sort them out. So funnily enough, the jolt of the landing seemed to bring the picture back. I don't know what that was about. I did try also flying without it recording to see if that made a difference, and it didn't. So yeah, there's no noise from the camera that is being produced while it's recording that's affecting the gyro. Anyways, as you can see, my VTX SMA connector's in a different position, so I've changed some things around. So as you can see, I no longer have the ribbon cable at the side. I took all of this apart and I twisted the flight controller around, which does mean that you can't access the USB thing now. So that's one reason that they had it coming out the side. I think the other reason is I've had to switch out the SMA connector, the extension coax here, and that's because it wasn't long enough to reach the back here when it was flipped around, but I've also had to mount mine up the top here, and that is because my connector is a little bit longer than the stock one and it catches on the board. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that I've got a few problems with this one, and if you're expecting good results out of the box, well, I've just not had that. And I would say that if you're interested in this model, hold off until I have sorted out the problems with GearBest. Hopefully we will get them fixed, because I think this has got great potential. When I was flying it around, I thought, wow, there's hardly any latency. In fact, I couldn't even notice it. Whereas with the split, I can notice it a little bit. I also noticed as well when I was flying that this is a 4:3 image. It's not like a 16:9 that has been stretched, so it is a cropped slightly 4:3 image, which is fine for the goggles that I use. And yeah, I think turning this probably isn't going to help, because I think the noise is actually electrical. And it's going to be tricky doing something about that, because with these 4-in-1 ESCs, you can't put individual capacitors on them. You can only really put one on the battery lead, which I tend to find doesn't do a lot. But one thing that I might try next, if this doesn't work, is a capacitor going from the ESC board to the flight controller, but I think it's on one of these connectors, so that might be really tricky to do as well, because it probably could do with a capacitor where the power's going in here, and then maybe another capacitor like a 330 microfarads or something on here to stop noise going from the flight controller to this board. But yeah, I think for me it needs a bit of an upgrade on this system, maybe. So yeah, anyways, let's get and see how it flies with these changes. So just as I suspected, those changes didn't do a thing, which is a shame, because I spent about 45 minutes taking it all apart doing the soldering. But I think the issues are electrical. You see when it does its thing, you see that violent tip to the side? I'm not doing that with the sticks, it's doing that itself. I mean, I'm coming to do a turn and then it just sort of like turns in on itself, which I think it's noise coming from the ESCs, but you know, I'm gonna have to do more testing. As you can see there, it's pretty much going dark at this point, so yeah, I've been working all day on it trying to get some results out of it, but yeah, no joy. So I just thought I'd fly it around slowly, because if you draw too many amps or put too much noise through the system, that's when the camera completely washes out. At first I thought like maybe it's a problem with the ribbon cable, because I've seen that before, but the ribbon cable was absolutely fine. It's just the camera getting aggravated by all of this noise, I think, to the point where, you know, it just says, "I'm not taking this anymore," or something like that. Anyway, but yeah, it's a bit of a shame, because it's another FuriBee product that isn't perfect out of the box, but I think it's got really good potential, this one. I really do. So I'm going to show this video to GearBest, and hopefully they can take a look at it. And I'm going to try and make some improvements myself if I can. I think because it's noise based, a capacitor on the input to the flight controller might help. And that's going to be tricky to put in because it's on like one of those little cables. Might have to hack into it. Probably use like a 330 microfarads capacitor there to keep it small, because the 1000 microfarad ones are huge. And then if it's needed, maybe another capacitor on the power out to this system as well. And I think that will fix it for me. But yeah, a little bit disappointed, because I think the motors are nice. I think it flew pretty nice, you know, all of the things aside. But, you know, I think if you're going to be buying into this, you're not going to want to mess around with soldering capacitors. That's why you've gone for an RTF model, you know. So but you know, this is an early model. They're sent to me as an early model. I think you can still buy them though, so you know, I think it's still fair for me to put the video out rather than just go straight to GearBest and say, look, there's some issues, you know, so sort them out. So what I really want to get out of this is for you guys to hold off until they fix these issues, and hopefully they will, and I'll make another video on it. But yeah, until then, I don't think this one is quite ready, so as I come in for a landing, I'll thank you for watching, and please continue to subscribe. Cheers.